It is time for another episode of the Cultural Hall. It is a Saints Who Sport Olympics recap edition, joined by the C-Dub, the Sheriff, Christopher West. What West? The West? I don't know. There was a
I
suggestion
don't know.
someone
It'll
told me
come.
the other day that I actually really liked, and for some reason, I'd like to store things in different places, and it's in none of the places that I like to store it. So when it comes back around, I'll
All
come up
right.
with a nickname. Uh,
Well, don't work too hard. I shared this episode, the last episode with my son, and he just rolled his eyes through that part. So, I think we're overthinking it right now.
did your kid just go, how about lame, Dad? That's a nickname I call you. How
So
about we just call you
you really,
lame?
I mean, you started using Gen Z slang, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, Dad, stop it!" So yeah, I don't know. It was just the way it goes. But hey, any chance we can embarrass our kids, especially on a live podcast,
Sure.
it's the best. So we'll take
Well,
it.
and what I appreciate about kids is that they will, if you are ever feeling good about yourself at all, in the slightest, like, hey, what a proud moment that is. Talk to your kids. That is a
Yeah.
great way to be, humbled, really.
Yes, they will bring you down. There's no boasting like Hellman Hellman, right? They will go, stop boasting. Let me tell you why. Yeah, exactly.
Let me ask you, we're going to start and kind of go through all the members of the church and the Olympics and do a recap of all that. Did you watch, would you say, an average amount of Olympics for you? None of the Olympics?
You know,
Recaps? How did you engage?
that's a great question because I learned pretty quickly a lot of people don't watch the Olympics, at least in my sphere of influence, right? All of my friends, people in my ward and coworkers and whatnot, like very, very few, maybe a little something here or there, something goes viral and they see it online.
Hmm.
But there weren't very many people that did that, or it was like one event and they were really interested in that. My family, we have our favorite events. And so we'll pull up things. We liked all the basketball this year, 3-on-3 and the big stuff. Watched a little bit of soccer. We really like sport climbing. We watch a lot of those things. My daughter loves the rhythmic gymnastics, but I prefer the regular floor routine gymnastics and whatnot. Or I mean, balance beam and uneven bars. So, swimming we get into. So there's a variety of things that we would watch. And usually every evening we'd watch a few highlights. We'd get into that and really support some of that. Some of them we were able to watch live, just the way
Hmm.
it was kind of catered. We watched a bit of the closing ceremonies, a bit of the opening ceremony. So I would say above average, just because the people I spoke to tend to not watch much. What about you, Richie? What do you watch?
Well, so the thing that I found, and I find this every single time, and it always takes me too long, I cry like a baby. But I normally like I sort of hear about the opening ceremonies, and this year was no different, right? The blasphemous anti-Christian Paris opening Olympics, making fun of
Yeah,
were
yeah,
they,
yeah,
won't they, all everything like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Uh, and then I sort of go, oh, yeah, I need to make sure. Now, our home different. We don't have the live TV in any sort of capacity, so anything that we're going to engage in is going to be packaged, or we have to purchase the particular like Olympic coverage in
Yeah,
order to be able to
yeah.
see it. So most of the interaction that I had was either with other people. Sister-in-law who lives just down the road had it on a couple times, and I found myself crying in the this person came from a home that had no parents. In fact, they didn't even know they could run until they started. It's that kind of stuff. And I'm
Okay,
weeping within the race hasn't even started.
okay. All right.
So I find myself engaging
Nice
in it that
stories.
way, and
Yeah,
then the 30 seconds, like your clips on X or your
yeah,
your different kind of side stories about that stuff. I find myself highly engaged in those things.
sure,
And then the
sure.
people that are very, very adamant that brother dog, that is Snoop Dogg,
Yeah,
and
right.
member of the church because he received the Book of Mormon all those many years ago. No,
Well,
not
yeah,
really.
and I took a different interest this year in different sports because of this podcast. We were looking at Saints Who Sports, and so I wanted to see how these specific Saints performed. And I try to watch all of their events and to see how they did and go from there. And honestly, that introduced me to things I probably wouldn't have watched. I like watching the athletic events where track and field, but just a couple of them, usually the more prominent ones. Never
Mhm.
even knew what steeplechase was until I
Mhm.
started reading about these three different members of the church that were competing in that, and now I like the steeplechase and I've learned a lot about it. So that definitely opened it up when you have a focus and what you want to do and learn a little bit more. So it was nice to be able to enjoy a sport that I don't normally watch.
Well, and it's interesting too with the steeplechase having it be so many members of the church. Is that spot on, or is that just irony that so many members of the church are chasing
Yeah.
steeples? Has anyone had that deep thought yet?
Yeah, it's such a weird one. That one goes back pretty far. So, certainly we're chasing steeples at that point. But yeah, just interesting and learning the history behind some of these events, why they are there, watching some new ones. To be honest, I did try breaking. And heaven forbid we ever call it break dancing. Apparently, we've been wrong for generations.
Oh,
But
geez.
you say that, and you will get scolded. That is a bad word these days.
Wait, now,
So,
wait. Now, wait a second. I mean, I know this isn't
yeah, well, look
church
that up. Like
specific. Why is it
breaking versus
breaking and
break
not breaking?
dancing.
Yeah,
Uh,
why?
so apparently, I was reading into this. Like, heaven forbid you say that, because this is something that's been around. What was it? I think they said like the 60s, 70s. I can't remember exactly what it said in the article. And it became popular in the 80s and 90s when we were growing up, Richie. And
Mhm.
what did we call it back then? Breakdancing. Apparently, that's not what they called it. They called it breaking, but the media picked it up and they called it breakdancing. And they're like, how dare you label us? That is not what it is. And it kind of fell out of popularity until recently. And when they came back, they said it's breaking, it's breaking. Ignore all of the Zoomers out there that are saying otherwise. It is not breakdancing, it is breaking. So, okay, it was in there. It was interesting to watch. I'm not a proponent of it. I don't think it should be in the Olympics. It's not going to be in the 28 Olympics in LA just because they elected not to pick it up that year. But it could be
Interesting.
back in 32. We'll have to see. But nonetheless, it was interesting. And I could say that there's a lot of events in the Summer Olympics that probably shouldn't be an Olympic event. Go do your own thing, great. But for me, I could create my own Olympics a little differently. And breaking, I wouldn't put in that category.
A purist. Listen to that bold take. I didn't realize that you could just sort of opt in and opt out of
Yeah, well, it's kind
different
of these.
events.
Yeah, it's weird how the host city can kind of pick. And I imagine the IOC says, track and field, these are staying. Swimming, like these are staples, we're not losing them. But a lot of it is going to be who are the people attending these host cities? Are you going to get a lot of people that are going to show up to see this? And the biggest one, broadcast. I was reading an article last night that really said like Paris stuck the landing on all of this, but a lot of the people they catered to are not to the French, it's to the Americans. We're the largest watchers of the
Mhm.
Olympics virtually. So yeah, we weren't there in person, but NBC, like they accommodated a lot of those schedules. Like, okay, you want primetime stuff? We're going to put the basketball in the evening, so it's not happening in the middle of the night for everybody in America that they can actually tune in and watch that. So a lot of money coming into those things. So what do we like? What does the host city like? If they don't like particular events, it's not going to show up, and that's kind of why baseball hasn't been shown recently. It's not as popular outside of America.
Well, it's America's base. It's America's, pastime,
Yeah,
but
although
so
although
long. Takes so long.
however, we're not. I don't think we're playing baseball in 28 in Los Angeles. I'll have to check that to be sure. But
No, that can't be right.
well, let's check that here. We'll look it up. But wait till you hear what they are going to play for the first time:
Well,
cricket.
okay. Okay. Well, because cricket
So
is a huge surge in the United States right now. Huge.
yeah, and we are surprisingly good at it. The American team recently was doing fairly well with that. But nonetheless, like we're not gonna play baseball, but we'll play cricket in the
No, I'm
U.S.
sure we're playing baseball.
All right,
Before
let's
we get
check it
too
out.
far away from it, and while you're looking that up, I took a quick opportunity to look up the breakdancing and breaking, and Team USA B girl, which I'm assuming is one of the competitors for the USA breaking team, said to Time magazine, "If you call it breakdancing, you're not a breaker." So that's
Mm-hmm.
how
There you
that
go.
that is just it's like a thing where if you have to say you're cool, you can guarantee that you're not, that kind of thing. All right, are we
All
playing
right,
baseball in
I
28?
stand corrected.
Okay.
2028 games. It'll be the first time it's been played since 2008. It's the seventh time that baseball has been an official medal event in the Olympics. It started in 92, 96, 2004, and 8, and then took a jump to 2020. Oh, sorry, I misspoke. 2020 and now 2028. So it's been hit or miss the last few Olympics. And
Uh,
thankfully, we played in the City of Angels.
Pun intended, hit or miss. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Well, I'm known to be wrong. I do say things on occasion that I don't really say that I mean. I'm glad we can call these things out. In fact, Richie, didn't you receive an email here recently you wanted to get into?
I did. Brent and Ella wrote in, "Greetings, team." See, and I like that because as a Saints Who Sport team, maybe that's where the nickname comes, Chris. Maybe Maybe
I'm
like Batman and Robin, or Stockton to Malone. You could be Malone. I'll be the Stockton. I don't know, something. We'll figure something out as far as that goes. Says, oh, now I clicked out of it. Hold, please. Hold. Stay on target. Just a comment about your sports editions. I'm not sure, Richie, who your co-host is. His name's Chris West.
That's me. It's right on the screen.
But his misstatements or lack of knowledge is a bit or a lot distracting. There were a couple of misstatements in the first episode. I would have to go back and listen to it to give specifics. It seems one of them that he was unfamiliar with the rules of a sport. And the latest episode that I just listened to this morning, where it sounds as if he is simply unprepared with some facts. For instance, he mentioned there are just a few members of the church who are playing in the NFL, or maybe he was referring to active members of the church playing in the NFL. I'm not sure how he would know who is active and who isn't. But last year, there were 10 former BYU players on NFL rosters that were members of the church, and there were over 20 LDS players on rosters from other universities. Many of those are returned missionaries, so I would guess that more than just a few of those are active. Anyway, and this is the redeeming part, Chris, because I know sending this email with no sort of context and just copy-paste forwarding to you may seem discouraging, but I think we're onto something. We just continue to figure this out with you and I, whether it's completely full episodes like this one about the Olympics, or just a third break where we do it at the end of an episode. Says this from Brent and Ella. Anyway, I love the sports editions. It just might take a little more prep. Perhaps a co-host who is a little bit more knowledgeable or prepared. Just my 2 cents. Brent. So, we threw Ella in there because that's the email address, Brent and Ella. But that was just from Brent. So it's just one person, not two. Chris, I want you to know that.
Okay. Well, yeah, I will freely admit, we don't know everything, especially when it comes down to sports. This was something you and I talked about extensively, Richie. We're like, we want to cover sports, and we aren't sports people. We'll watch a few things, but we know friends, we know other people that are way into sports and be better qualified for this. We're definitely not sports broadcasters. So we don't know a lot of these things. And so we appreciate being called out on a few things for corrections. Looking at the NFL, 10, 20 members of the church, whatever that is, well, I won't even fill a full NFL team. So certainly we are a minority overall. There are a few members of the church in the NFL, not a whole lot. And I remember speaking to the rarity of having 2 active ones on the team that were being highlighted by the church themselves, and how fast friends they become and how they're able to support each other. And, of course, that was the point of the article overall, is that you've got a couple of good members who are doing what they can with the Philadelphia Eagles to be good members for each other and their teammates as well.
Yeah. And I will also say it's a new thing. This is maybe the third Saints Who Sports. So, we appreciate the feedback, the guidance as we make our way through this. It can only get better. And it actually led me, real quick, Chris, to another email that I had not shared with you.
New one.
This from Sandra Spencer, but I think she goes by Sandy, based on the fact that Sandy she says at the end of her email, Sandy, but her email came in from Sandra Spencer. She says, hey, the announcer for the swimming, this being in the Olympics, so the announcer there, I guess, in Paris, or maybe it's the TV broadcaster, his name is Rowdy Gaines. He is a multiple Olympic medal winner, so technically a Saint Who Sports-ish. So I'll take that. That's another Saint who sported with the Olympics. I just wanted to make sure we didn't get too far away from that.
He's been covering Olympics since 1996.
And a Mormon. He's a saint who sports.
He did sport at one point. He's 65.
I'll take it.
He's sporting in different ways now. Cool.
We don't have to say it doesn't have to be saints who are presently in the sport and top of the heap. If they've sported and they are saints, they are in fact saints who sport. So let us, now that we've got the email done, we've talked about our interaction with the Olympics, let us actually recap those saints who sported during the Olympics.
Okay, let's dive into the results. Let's start off with the best stuff, because as of this recording here, we're looking into this. Everything's done. The medal count is over, and we know how many everyone was able to get. By my count, and I, of course, as I said earlier, I can stand to be corrected on any of these things, but by my count, what I can see is members of the church took home 2 silver and 1 bronze.
Okay.
And we'll get into those specifics as to where those things came from, and specifically how one of those silvers kind of bubble up to the surface. We just learned about one of those silvers here from another member of the church that we didn't cover recently, wasn't covered by the church. And we learned, oh, he is a member of the church. Oh, this is fantastic. So coming home with 2 silvers and a bronze, not too shabby, not too
Nope,
shabby indeed.
not at all.
That
So
worked out.
we start with what? Where do we go? Where?
Let's go down the list and talk about some of these individuals, what they were able to do. Got some side story to support some of the stuff that they did here, and we'll get into this here. So, how about we start off with the marathon?
I'll take it.
Marathon. There was only one event. There's no qualifier. There's no seeding. It was one event, and you were done with all of that. And to jump right to the end, Mr. Connors, Mantz, and Clayton Young came in at 8th and 9th, respectively. So all things considered, that's pretty good. 8th and 9th is what they were able to do. And if I recall, they were the top 2 Americans. I'll have to go back and check that here in just a second. But top 2 Americans in there, they were doing really well. They both pulled out personal best times, or at least season best times that they were able to do. They were doing quite well. They're really worried it's a different place to do a marathon, different hills, different temperature, different humidity. When you're running that far, that's going to mean a lot. Dominated, of course, by a lot of Africans. And so the fact that they were able to do well is pretty awesome. There's a story that was shared earlier on August 4th, after the Olympics had started. They attended a local church, both those two, as well as Mr. Rooks and Corrigan, who we'll get into as well. So those 4 young men attended a chapel close by to the Olympic Village, and they were able to go in there and do a whole lot. And one of them asked them, they recalled a story, and it says, "How is it like to be an Olympian? And tell us about all your successes." And he says, "Hey, all of that doesn't matter. Who am I? I am a child of God, a member of his church, and disciple of Jesus Christ." So if you remember, Richie, there was some time here, I think it was last year, speaking to some group, maybe a young adults or something, and president of the church, Russell M. Nelson, said, "Hey, labels. We got a lot of labels. Gen Z, millennials, boomers, whatever it is. We look at ourselves, we pigeonhole ourselves in certain things." And he had said, ultimately, there's only a few labels that should matter. And one of those being a child of God, right? Really focus on that. So it's cool to see here Mr. Connor Mantz really pointing out that, hey, I am a child of God. And that's what matters. Yeah, I'm an Olympian. Yeah, I've had a lot of successes, but that's what matters to me most. So that was pretty cool to hear that.
And I think it's a significant example. I don't ever like to be the heavy-handed one, but I would like to point out, here you are, one of the top competitors in all the world in a particular thing, and you're in a foreign country wherein your mind is focused on a lot of different things, right? How you're going to perform in the race, or how you performed in the race, or any of that kind of stuff. You have all of the different press events, people that want to talk to you, all of these different things. And to make it a priority for you to show up at church, I mean, it's not the most like elaborate of things, right? But to make the commitment to go, while I am there, I will attend a local ward, I think is pretty significant and telling of the kind of religious devotion that these individuals have. It also doesn't go without saying for me to think, man, just the times that I'm on vacation and don't go to church. Maybe I need to
taking the time out
reevaluate that
there, and they got
sometimes.
cameras on them, so they're watching their moves. So you're right. You're being able to get out there and do that's pretty cool. Being out there and show that you are a true disciple of Jesus Christ. Nothing against the other saints who sport, and maybe they did, and no one caught them on camera, so that is totally okay. But nonetheless, commendable to these 4 young men and what they stand up for, sons of Mosiah in that sense, right? That they were really going out there and doing what they could to be missionaries, as well as supporting their own sport as well.
Well, and that sort of leads into the next story as we talk about Jimmer, Jimmer being out there for that big devotional for the youth of Paris, him and another former Olympian saying, hey, we believe in the gospel, and being able to speak about it. I think that devotional actually took place before the Olympics started, but I know Jimmer being out there and saying, hey, you know what, been all over, had all this. And
but to recap on that one, 3-on-3 basketball did not do very well. Jimmer injured himself in the beginning minutes of the second game. And there were several games that were played prior to the end bracket. So they're just doing some play and stuff to determine your seeding. And he was only able to play partially 2 games out of, I don't remember how many there were, 6 or 8, something like that. So he didn't play a whole lot. He coached from the bench. And the problem with that was none of the other teammates had a chance to sub out, because you only have those 4 players.
Yeah.
That's all you get.
Yeah.
So those 3 players played the entire game. That's in part why they weren't able to play as well. You couldn't take a break. And if anyone watched the 3-on-3 basketball, oh my gosh, that was tiring. It was a different kind of action that you see on regular 5-on-5 basketball. So they were working hard. Jimmer realized, oh my gosh, I worked so hard to get here. I couldn't do as much. And that's kind of a letdown. But he posted something on Instagram that I want to read. It's a little long, but I think it's fantastic and really sums up where his head is.
Let's do it.
Throughout my career, and especially over the past week, I've heard the phrase, everything happens for a reason, more times than I can count. In the midst of struggle and adversity, I can be incredibly difficult to hear, let alone believe. Yet I do believe it. I am a child of heavenly parents who love and care for me deeply, not just in terms of my successes and failures, but in the essence of who I am. From a divine perspective, the significance of my family and my faith far surpasses any Olympic triumph or basketball game. Our worth, mine and everyone's, remains constant. No victory or defeat can diminish it. We can find strength in smiling through the challenges because these experiences shape and strengthen us. With God on our side, we can endure and persevere. Ultimately, we can stay focused on being disciples of Jesus Christ. The outcome is glorious. And man, that was uplifting. He's posted a lot since then and before that about his injury and where he stands and what he's going to do. But the fact that he says, it doesn't matter. Everything happens for a reason. Sure, whatever. But you know what matters most? Just like it was said by Connor Mantz, I'm a child of God. And that's who I am first before I'm an Olympian. That's pretty cool. I think that's a great example to a lot of people out there. People who have posters of people on the wall. You want someone saying like this, I might be an Olympian, but I'm also a child of God.
Do you think that it's sort of true to the character of who these people are? I think of Olympians as really like structured. That's not necessarily the word that I want to come up with, but and strict is not the word that I'm looking for either, but like very principled. Like I do the thing and I continue to do the thing and are able to keep these things in perspective. Do you think that that there was any sort of ask from the church to be like, hey, take the opportunity or consider taking the opportunity to share your faith through these Olympics? Or is this such just an integral part of Jimmer and, these other folks' lives that they're just like, no, this is a natural byproduct of who and what I am?
Yeah, I think a bit of both, right? I know Jimmer specifically does a lot to proclaim a lot of that. He's actually lives locally to where I'm at here, and he speaks to the youth often and does a lot with them. And so I think a lot of that is genuine. He wants to do those things and really speak his testimony. But as I read a lot of these church news articles, they weren't about the sport. Yes, of course, they would report on the sport and where they came from, but it really wasn't about that. That I would say the reporter is going to pull out a lot and ask questions like, how has the gospel of Jesus Christ helped you in your strength to be where you are today? And really lead them into that answer. Because some of those questions are like, no one was ever going to give that answer to a regular reporter. Now, would someone say, I credit God and how his support helped me get to this situation? Sure, we hear those things. But to talk in deep about your love for your heavenly parents and how your divinity as a child of God really strengthens who you are, I don't think I've ever heard that on NBC before. So, definitely the church is pulling these things out of people, which is genuine, of course, but you're getting that perspective because the reporter's asking those things. But there are people like Jimmer and other people who compete in Olympics and other sports that truly have a devotion to our Savior and are going to take every opportunity to do that. There's another gentleman, Jeremy Guthrie, who took the opportunity to talk about that during the World Series with the Major League Baseball, unprompted. So, there are definitely people who are going to do that.
Well, and I was just going to say, not all of these sources that we're talking about are church news, because you're right. I do think that it's like, hey, for the audience that we are interviewing you for, of course, we want to lead and guide this way. Yeah. Yes, pun intended on lead and guide. But there were some of these individuals who, on a very national or international scale and scope, said, yeah, it's my heavenly parents that helped me do this, not just to the church news.
Yeah. I mean, Jimmer posted this on Instagram. Yeah. And that's a pretty heartfelt testimony right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Tremendous. Okay.
Well, let's talk about some of these other people and where they competed, where they fell. One of our international members of the church outside the United States, Peter Bull from Australia, he competed and he in the 800 meter, and unfortunately he didn't advance. That was one that had several events to get to the final stuff, and he wasn't able to make it there. Another person that didn't get to the final race was going to be Whitney Morgan. Actually, no, I think she did get to the final race with the 5K. And she posted her personal best time, which is great for her. Yeah. She's running faster than she's ever done. She qualified for the Olympics. She came in 14th. So, no medal, no advancing with anything there. Another person with a lot of spotlight, Courtney Waymont. She did make it here to the final after advancing, and she was able to get 12th place. And great for these two women be able to do such amazing things, and they're going to continue to grow. Like, you're not always able to get your personal best that is, 45 seconds than you've ever run in a race. Yeah. So they're going to advance. They're going to do better. And maybe we'll see them again in 4 years, and they'll beat their times and climb up the ladder even closer and be closer to that podium. So great opportunities for these women and these other people being able to say, even if I didn't advance, great experience, and I'll be back in 4 years.
Yeah, one of the things that I think strikes me is like the self-control and discipline that Olympians have, and that sometimes when we are watching, we're like, oh, come on, get in the top 3 so you get a medal. Yeah. And it's like, this person got 12th in an entire world of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not 1,200 or 12 million, 12 in a world of 7 billion people. Now everyone didn't commit all the things, right? But
right.
It's pretty remarkable to know that they can be that disciplined, still get a personal best, and be where they're at.
Right. And it's one thing for us sitting in America in our nice, comfy, air-conditioned house, judging them on a replay that played 12 hours before. Well, why didn't they just fill in the blank? And we do this with movies. Oh, shouldn't they just done that? How many times do we make decisions where we should have just done that? We should have done something else. And we're telling these people, oh, couldn't they have just run 30 seconds faster? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's go see you get 30 seconds better on your personal best tomorrow. And do that. And so, these are opportunities for people. They're going to do their best. They're going to pick themselves up. There's a reason they're an Olympian today.
BestDJinUtah.com is the website. That is where you go if you would like me to come and DJ your event. Now, will I do a family reunion where you all wear the same t-shirts? You bet I will. Will I travel to wherever you're at? Am I reasonable as far as what I cost? Yes. Do I bring a good time? Yeah, all the things. Listen, Best DJ in Utah, it's my company. It's a thing I do that allows me to be able to have the time to do the cultural hall. So if someone's getting married, you think, man, they need a great DJ. You're throwing a party, whether it's a 50th or 60th or 40th or 20th or whatever the party is. I've done them all and would love to be able to do that. An anniversary party, certainly done those. I did a baptism in 2023. Yeah, we did a big dance party at a baptism. Spoiler, not a Mormon baptism, but it was fun nonetheless. BestDJinUtah.com is a website. I will get back to you within 24 hours with a quote. Come on now. BestDJinUtah.com.
Imagine running a small business today. It's challenging. Imaging and internet presence is an absolute must. Even with that, you're still a small star in a bright cyber universe. Now, imagine you have someone who understands how to get your site designed for your talents and then easily searched by potential clients. Imagine Lennon Design. Whether it's strictly a website or a whole package of logo creation, advertising media, and promotional materials, Lennon Design is your partner in business. They'll test the boundaries of their imagination to create something unique for you. When you need creative, affordable design, let it be Lennon Design. Call 801-699-3022 or visit LennonDesign.com.
Let's see. Courtney Waymont. So James Corrigan is right.
James Corrigan. He was another person that was in that devotional there, was able to contribute to that. He's been another one prominent member on social media about the church and what he's able to do. He unfortunately did not advance out of the steeplechase qualifier rounds, but one who did is Kenneth Rooks. And he's definitely one of the bright spots. He's one that I was really proud of and cheering as I watched him. He qualified in his heat. He went into the Olympics to that final round, and it was fun watching him in the steeplechase because he was at the back. And right at the beginning, you're like, well, I guess America's not winning this thing. And this is 7.5 laps. This is jumping hurdles, going over a water pit and everything. And then that final lap, Richie, he breaks loose from the back to going all the way up to first place. And the announcer's like, whoa, 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 what is happening here? This American is coming up here. He's beating out Kenyans and other people, including the world title defender from Morocco. He's running, he's up there, and we're going, what has happened with this guy? And in the final 80 meters, he does get passed up by that Moroccan, the defender of his gold medal. And then we've got Kenneth Rooks, who comes in silver. With his personal best time, an amazing time that he was able to pull in. It was so cool to see him just work his way up in that final lap to come into second place and beating out these other people that he was like, I don't understand. How did this happen? This is amazing that I was able to go so far and do all of this and run to the front and dominate these other people, runners that he knew. He served his mission in Uganda, so he's going to know some runners, some people that maybe even be competing there. And he was able to pull in second place. And we've only won 2 other medals since 1984 in that race as Americans. So the fact that he's the 3rd American to do that since 1984, and the first one who did that in 84 was also a BYU runner, Brian Deemer, who won a bronze medal, just shows that, he did an awesome thing in a sport, in an event that Americans just don't do very well in. He was able to pull in silver. So kudos to him. Great job, Kenneth. I would love to hear more of your story someday.
Well, and don't forget that Kenneth Rooks was also the gentleman who fell in one of the qualifying events, and they were like, well, he's out, got back up and was able to either win or placed in order to qualify from that particular.
2023 NCAA championships, he fell on his second lap, and they're like, well, he's out of the race. But 7.5 laps, you got a chance to catch up some things. It's not the 800 meters that you're running here. And he pulled in first place, injured. And he came out to win that in the end. That's where he really got on people's radars. So he's definitely one who's going to work hard. That was cool. That was a cool one.
So then we leave steeplechase and go to soccer.
Yeah, out of the track and field events, there are a lot of people competing there. Soccer, we have Mr. Taylor Booth, who unfortunately the U.S. men's team did not make it out of the quarterfinals, so they did not medal. They didn't do as well as their female counterparts in soccer, so he did not advance from there. With a pistol shooting, we've got, let's see, I didn't write down the name here. Oh my goodness, what was her name? Lagan, I think Sister Lagan is who we were talking about. She did not advance out of that as well, that qualifying rounds. We've also got rugby. So going to our last sport to cover here in the Olympics, Richie, you had found a story that the church published. We have a player, Mr. Pony, as they call him. His nickname is Pony. He played for Fiji in the rugby sevens game. And Fiji, if anyone followed rugby, they came in second. They got a silver. So he pulled in another silver here for members of the church. The church did not initially cover him. So I bet this is true for a lot of different people. They competed and the church didn't know that they were competing. And so they were not originally covered in those initial spreads. So we only just got information about this guy, knowing that this Fijian was able to compete in the Olympics and pull in silver with his rugby sevens team.
Which it's interesting to note because there are so many people that compete and some that are fairly forthright with, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Some I know that even contact the publications within the church saying, hey, I am an Olympian. I am a member of the church, would like to be contacted that way. And then others who make themselves available. And then yet others who kind of fall into the third category, which is where we'll go with the final story from the female rugby. I found it fascinating the way that I automatically assumed, based on our prior conversation, when we talk about Stephanie Rivetti, she is a member of the LGBTQ community, a rugby player, and I sort of just without thinking showed my bias, all the things, and said, oh yeah, probably has long left the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but was featured both in the church news and in other places.
Yeah, she's a great person. In fact, I've been able to comment on a few things with her social media and interact with her, and she's a fantastic person and has admitted that she has left the church, and that's okay. That's someone who still believes in who she is, stands up for what she believes in, and the church still covered her. Kudos to the church for doing so, to really point those things out, that we got a member who is not an active member and is decided not to participate. And that's okay. That's all right that she is doing these things. And it's even more okay that the church still decided to cover her and give her that support, as all should do, regardless of their sexuality or any other personal choices, to support these people in the Olympics. And the women's U.S. women's rugby sevens came home with a bronze. Fantastic for them to do something like that. And Stephanie, kudos to you and all that you were able to do. It's fantastic that you're able to stand up for your community and who you believe, just like these other people we've spoken to on the podcast today. They stood up for what they believe in. They're an advocate for those things. And one cause is not lesser than another. We want to make sure that we can support all these causes and give them equal weight to be able to bear testimony, you're a child of God, and bear witness that we need to love and support all children of God, regardless of their sexuality.
Yeah, I just think it's a significant thing that the church decided to write and to get more of her story. I think that it's significant. I know that I don't want to overplay it being like, oh my gosh, it's telling, here come changes, the church and all that stuff. But I do think that it is a significant thing that not only did they do that, but also that as that has become more evident that she has sort of stepped away from the church, that there wasn't like a recanting or something like that on behalf of the church going, oh, no, we made a mistake, right? It's
right.
She's one of ours, a daughter of God, all of those things. And I'm excited because of communication that you've had a future guest of the Cultural Hall to be able to talk to her about her upbringing, attending BYU and the Olympics.
Yeah, absolutely. And we would love to get other people on the show here, regardless of where they placed in the Olympics. Being able to hear them and their story would be fantastic. If anyone has any connections there, please let us know so we can reach out to them and or the representatives and try to talk with them and figure out how they sport as a saint.
Yeah, and in particular, I want to talk to the Fijian. If it's not a language barrier, I like to say the word Fijian. And so if we can facilitate a conversation with the Olympic Fijian, I would love that. If anyone knows that individual, we can be able to have that conversation. That pretty much wraps out Olympics. Is that?
Yeah, that's about it I found on Olympics. If anyone has any other stories, do share with us. We'd love to continue the conversation, both online as well as in podcast format. But we do have a couple other stories here. We got Major League Baseball that's in swing right now. And on his 69th birthday, Elder Stevenson threw the first pitch at the Just Serve night for the Kansas City Royals. So anyone who's not familiar with baseball, there's a lot of home games. There's a lot of events they can do. There's usually a ceremonial first pitch. And they have someone from some background doing something to throw out a pitch. Because this was a church member event, it was called Just Serve, which is a program that is sponsored by the church and run about serving and helping other people. They did that. And there's other things that they still call them Mormon nights. There's Latter-day Saint night. There's family home evening night, different branding out there for different teams, depending on the location. We had Elder Stevenson throw that first pitch, and it was caught by former Royals World Series pitcher and member of the church, Jeremy Guthrie. Who we mentioned a little earlier in the podcast today. So both members of the church, it was fantastic they were able to participate in that, as well as 150 other missionaries in the Independence, Missouri mission who sang the national anthem. We talked about the Denver North mission that did that for the Rockies a few weeks ago, and we've got the Independence mission that was able to do that for the Kansas City Royals. So great to see members sporting in different ways, contributing to that. And Elder Stevenson throwing the first pitch, who was not the first apostle to do so. In fact, it'd be fun to go back and look to see how many apostles have thrown first pitches, because I know that's a high number, actually.
I'm looking at the various pictures from the game, and he's got a good windup. Elder Stevenson does.
See that knee popping up, yeah.
Yeah, 69. He's got the knee popping up. He definitely got the applause at the end. What I don't see, unfortunately, and what I sort of hoped that we would see, is what the actual pitch looked like. I would enjoy seeing that, as one who has thrown out a first pitch at a baseball game before. It is an incredibly what do you call it? Intimidating.
Sure.
Because people will boo you or they'll laugh at you. It is a large public format. When you throw out the first pitch, You just need to get it close to home plate. And so I hope that Elder Stevenson represented well in his arm.
That would be interesting. That was not mentioned in the article, and there are no pictures. So who really knows? Well, you and I don't know. Other people who attended would know on that. But great for him. Glad we can put these different members of the church, specifically executive members like apostles, to be in that format, to put on a baseball jersey, wear a baseball hat, and not a shirt and tie, and have some fun out on the baseball field and enjoy the time with other members of the church as well.
I also think it's kind of fun when you look at this because, like, I've seen, I think Elder Uchtdorf did it at a Dodgers game, and there is a collection of quite a few apostles who have done this.
Yeah.
It's always fun to me because never once, not one time, Chris, have I seen the apostle just wearing the jersey. They are always wearing the dress shirt underneath the jersey. And it's not to say that, the jersey wouldn't cover garment lines or something like that, but for whatever reason, they are always wearing the dress shirt and the dress slacks underneath it. They could,
I know. Yes. Sometimes uniform. We do see him in some other stuff, but it does look like in his picture he's wearing slacks. He's definitely got some nice shoes on, and he does have some sort of dress shirt underneath. I don't see a tie, so that's good.
Okay.
But nonetheless, little funnies. He let it out a little bit, unbutton that top button. That's about as far as we get. But funny. You're right.
Funny. And then the last story, we actually covered it, unless you have something that in particular. This is the kid who was at the Diamondbacks game.
Yeah. So this is a funny story to end here. It was another church night. They called it LDS Family Night, is what it was for the Arizona Diamondbacks. And so a lot of members there, and he pulled out an old shirt that he had that he said he just got one time. And it said on there, "I can't, I'm a Mormon," which is funny. If we understand the context with here, we say, "I'm sorry, I can't fill in the blank," right? No matter what that might be, I'm a Mormon. And a lot of people go, "Oh, okay, I get it." And that's usually enough with that. So it's just kind of a fun thing. But in the announcer, as it was panning over a section, people jumping up and down, they misread the shirt. And they said, "Oh, this is my new favorite shirt. I can't, I'm a moron." Oh, that's fantastic. And it blew up all over social media. It got like 500,000 views, they were saying, because all of a sudden this announcer was misreading the shirt and really pointed out that I can't, I'm a moron, when, that's not quite what it said. But funny on both ends, I think.
I have one of those shirts. I have that version. The blue one. I have the black one. I'm not sure that it still fits. It was for a much younger Richie than the present day, so it's a little tight in some spaces that it isn't, but maybe I'll, for a future episode,
you should have worn it today. That would have been perfect. But...
I know it. You know how you have those things. Let me ask you this: Do you have the things how old are you?
39.
Yeah, so as you're starting to get older, right, you still have clothes from when you were in high school or certainly your early 20s. And you hang on to it because it means something to you, or you're just not ready to get rid of it, but you know that you've just hung on to it. You're not exactly sure where it is. That's where that shirt is for me.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And I now have a couple kids that have gotten older and taller, and one specifically similar frame to me. And I'm okay, I'm not going to get rid of this, but you can wear it. And 90% of it, he's like, no, I'm not wearing that. But there will be a few things that it will live on, and I can see that shirt that I prize so much worn by the next generation, and I can take pride in that. The other times it ends up in the Goodwill pile because he doesn't want it anymore.
And that's how you see. Let me think. I'm close enough in age to you. Do you remember like the Big Johnson, the double entendre shirts of the?
I don't know.
Okay. That might have just been a Utah thing. All it was just a double entendre about like Johnson baseball bats. And of course it was referencing, other things, the double entendre of the Johnson. And that was a big thing. And I can just see kids being like, "Oh, Dad liked a particular brand of baseball bats." Wears the t-shirt to school and then goes, "Oh yeah, there's a reason why these were banned in the 90s. There were other ones too, like the Stussy. What was the big t-shirt when you were in middle high school?
Oh, that's a good question. I can't think back on that. I'm not sure what it was. I remember a lot of pants, a lot of people wearing Jinko jeans.
Okay.
Big old fat leg jeans. I remember that specifically, but I can't remember any shirts specifically.
Okay. Yeah, the Jinko jeans. Perfect. Yeah. Where you've got them, hidden in the top of the closet. The kid gets them out.
Said, "Hey, you need to wear these."
There's a reason why they went away.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that about covers it. Contact at theculturalhall.com if people have further questions. If you're like, "Oh, you guys completely missed that," we would welcome any of those kind of things. We may, for the next Saints Who Sport, again, maybe a third block, maybe a separate episode. I want to make sure that we stay current with everything as we're trying to get back to publishing a little bit more frequently. Summer is crazy. Summer's almost over. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I said that. But yeah, definitely. I enjoy the Saints Who Sport. So I think Brent said the same thing. I think we spoke educatedly about this in this episode.
Good. Yeah.
My only regret is I still don't feel like I've got a really great nickname for you that I feel confident about. I'd like you to.
It's all right.
I'd like you to be Fijian, so I could say the Fijian Chris West, but that's not accurate.
No.
I don't know.
Colorado.
Yeah. What's the Colorado like the Utah's the Beehive State? What's Colorado?
Centennial State.
Okay, nope. That is not it. That is not where we're going with that nickname. I'll figure something out. The Rocker from the other side of the Rockies. That's not bad, but it's not a nickname.
That works. That's a good sign off from the other side of the Rockies. This is Chris West.
Yes, I love it. Keep that from the other side of the Rockies. We hope that this episode has nourished and strengthened your body.
That if you're sick and couldn't attend, that you'll be able to listen next time.
And that when the time comes, you will be able to travel home in safety. In the meantime, Chris at Alpine Lakes Travel, Rick McGee, Debbie Wanless, Chocolate Cake Bites Podcast, and the Tiger with a U will be saving a seat for you
on the back row
of the Cultural Hall.
Save me a seat, it's sure to be neat on the back row. We really gotta go on the Cultural Hall show.